You stub your toe on the edge of the bed. It hurts. Sharp, immediate, physical. Now, picture this instead. You send a text. An hour passes. No reply, 2 hours. Still nothing. Something in your chest tightens the exact same way. That's not a coincidence. That's not a metaphor. Your brain is using the same circuitry for both. Think about the last time someone left you on red or didn't invite you to something everyone else was going to. Did your stomach drop? Did your chest feel tight? You probably called it hurt feelings. But what if it was actually just hurt? For a long time, scientists assumed emotional pain and physical pain were completely separate systems. One in the body, one in the mind. Two different languages, two different departments. Then in 2003, a neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberger ran an experiment that changed everything. She put people in an fMRI scanner and had them play a simple ball-tossing game with two other players, except the other players were computer-controlled. And partway through the game, they simply stopped throwing the ball to the participant. No explanation, no warning, just exclusion. What Eisenberger found lit up on the scan was almost unbelievable. The exact same brain region that activates when your body experiences physical pain, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, activated just as strongly when people felt socially excluded. Being left out of a fake ball game triggered the same neural alarm as a physical injury. Sit with that for a second. Your brain didn't build a separate system for social rejection. It repurposed the one it already had for bodily harm. Why would evolution do something so seemingly wasteful? Why reuse the pain system instead of building something new? Because for most of human history, being cut off from your group wasn't just uncomfortable, it was a death sentence. Humans didn't survive the last few 100,000 years through claws, speed, or strength. Humans survived through cooperation. A lone human on the ancient savannah, without a group to share food, watch for predators, or help raise children, faced odds that were, frankly, brutal. Exclusion from the tribe wasn't an emotional inconvenience. It was often the last event that happened before starvation, predation, or death from exposure. So your ancestors' brains needed a mechanism urgent enough to override every other impulse the moment social bonds were threatened. Physical pain already had exactly that kind of urgency built in. Evolution didn't invent a new alarm. It just wired the oldest, loudest alarm in the building to a new trigger. The psychologist John Cacioppo spent decades studying loneliness at the University of Chicago, and his research found something that should genuinely concern you. Chronic loneliness doesn't just feel bad. It behaves physiologically almost like chronic pain or chronic stress. People who report persistent loneliness show elevated markers of inflammation, disrupted sleep patterns, and even measurable increases in mortality risk comparable to smoking or obesity. Your body doesn't file loneliness under emotional discomfort. It files it under threat. This reframes something you've probably experienced but never quite named. Have you ever noticed that a broken friendship can leave you replaying it in your head for weeks? The same way a physical wound keeps demanding your attention until it heals. That's not you being dramatic. That's the exact same rumination mechanism your brain uses for unresolved injury. Here's where it gets stranger still. The neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman, who helped pioneer the field of social cognitive neuroscience, has argued that your brain treats social connection less like a luxury and more like a nutrient. Not a pleasant bonus on top of survival, but something closer to food or water. Something your neural architecture assumes you need constantly and punishes you sharply for lacking. Think about what that means for a species that now spends enormous stretches of the day physically alone, staring at screens, working remotely, scrolling through other people's lives instead of sharing a room with them. Your brain is still running an ancient program that assumes isolation equals danger, even when you're perfectly safe, fed, and sheltered. This is why a single unanswered message can quietly wreck an afternoon. This is why a canceled plan with a friend can leave you feeling strangely deflated for hours. This is why moving to a new city where you don't know anyone yet can produce a heaviness that feels almost physical. Because to your ancient wiring, it is physical. Somewhere in your skull, an alarm built for saber-toothed predators and cooperative hunting bands is going off because you don't have plans this weekend. There's a reason painkillers show up in some surprising research on this topic. In one striking study, researchers found that people who took acetaminophen, ordinary over-the-counter pain relief, reported measurably reduced social pain in response to exclusion compared to people who took a placebo. Let that land for a moment. A drug built to numb a stub toe also dulled the sting of being left out. That's not a coincidence of chemistry. That's confirmation that these two forms of pain are, at some fundamental level, the same signal running through the same wiring. So what does this mean for you living now in a world engineered in almost every way to keep you physically separated from other people while feeling digitally connected to all of them? It means the ache you feel after a lonely weekend isn't weakness. It isn't oversensitivity. It's an ancient, load-bearing survival system doing exactly the job it was built to do, just in an environment that never stops generating false alarms. Notifications that look like connection but aren't. Group chats that simulate closeness without touch, without presence, without the shared vigilance your ancestors relied on to actually feel safe. And maybe that's the real twist buried in all of this. You've probably spent your whole life believing that needing people, wanting closeness, hating to be excluded, was some kind of personal fragility, something to grow out of, something a stronger, more independent version of you would eventually stop feeling. But the ache was never a flaw. It was the exact same alarm system that once made sure your ancestors never wandered too far from the fire, never let the bond with their group weaken enough to become fatal. You weren't built to be fine alone. Nobody who made it this far down the family tree was. Tonight, when a message goes unanswered a little too long, or a room feels a little too quiet, notice what happens in your chest. That tightening isn't in your head. It's not even really about the message. It's the same signal your ancestors felt the moment they realized the group had moved on without them, still firing, thousands of generations later, just to keep you close to the people who keep you alive.